for being here this evening. This is the first of a series of monthly roundtables that we at Joint Initiatives are going to be hosting for our UPK providers and even those who are considering coming into UPK in the future. They're not just for UPK providers, but they are to discuss UPK. The state has asked us as the local coordinating organization to provide you with information on a monthly basis that they push to us and then we push out to you. So a part of what you're going to get in this particular presentation today is the slides that CDEC has asked us to use. And then the second part of this, we are going to talk about how UPK and CCAP work together. So I'm sure by now you are aware of the group that makes up the JIUPK team. Shay Almonte is the Foundation's Program Director. I am filling in on a temporary basis as essentially the UPK manager. We have two family resource navigators, Heather and Carla, and they are spending a lot of time reaching out to families, particularly those who have not been matched, to see if we can find spots for them. Drew is on this call and he is the UPK assistant. And Ryan Berry is also on this call and he is our awesome data specialist. So he's gonna take over here in a minute and give you some information about UPK in El Paso County. So our agenda today is UPK in El Paso County by the numbers, an update from CDEC, as I said, questions from the CDEC update. Then we're going to talk about UPK and CCAP. We're going to talk about dates and times for future roundtables, and then we're going to answer any additional questions that you may have, we hope. So I'm going to start by turning it over to Ryan and letting him give you an overview of UPK in El Paso County.
Well, alrighty. Good evening, everybody. Like Noreen said, my name is Ryan. I'm the UPK data specialist here at Joint Initiatives. So this is a very high-level analysis of the data here in El Paso County. We have a lot of data that we could go into. So this is just kind of a big picture overview of what we're looking at in the county. So the total number of UPK providers that we have in El Paso County is 175. We have 79 private child care centers. We have 68 school district-based programs. That's all of the school districts. All 15 school districts in El Paso County are participating in UPK. And then we have 28 family child care homes that are registered as far to be UPK providers here in El Paso County. So far, we have received, or we have right now, 7,347 active applications that have been received through the Bridge Care system. The total number of registered UPK seats in El Paso County amongst our 175 providers is 5,127. The number of 4-year-olds that we have enrolled in UPK in El Paso County is 4,132. We also, of course, have 3-year-olds enrolled in universal pre-K. So we have 881 3-year-olds who are also enrolled in UPK in El Paso County. And then the final bit of data here is the number of unmatched 4-year-olds that we have in El Paso County. We still have around 764 4-year-olds that we are currently trying to get matched to a program. And that is something that our family resource navigators are working really hard on right now, doing outreach to each and every one of these families and trying to find matches for those folks. So that is just kind of a summary of the overall data here in El Paso County at the moment.
So we're going to let Ryan go and enjoy his Friday evening. But before he does that, I'm wondering if any of you have any questions about the data. Just unmute yourself and ask a question.
I have a question on the unmatched 4-year-olds. I don't know if you can even answer this. Do you know if it's just because the programs that are available just don't fit with the families, or they just are not just location or anything? Do you have any data on that, why they haven't been matched?
It is those factors, and a few other factors that kind of go into the reasons why we have unmatched 4-year-olds. There are certain parts of the city, up north in particular, where we do have a very large concentration of 4-year-olds, but there's simply not enough seats for those kiddos. So that would be the case why there's a lot of unmatched 4-year-olds up on the north end of town. And then when you look kind of at other areas, it's kind of those other factors that you had mentioned kind of come into play in those other areas. So you're looking at maybe folks who needed full-time care or needed part-time care, but there's simply not those programs in their areas. There's also, we've seen quite a few cases, especially recently now that the school year has started, that, you know, there might be availability, but it's kind of far away from folks' home. And so oftentimes in those cases, folks are actually choosing to remain on wait lists for programs and hoping that a seat will open up at that program, because driving so far is just kind of unfeasible for them. So there's a variety of factors going into why there is a lot of unmatched 4-year-olds. So those are just some of the reasons why we have a good chunk of those. And like I said, our navigators are working really hard right now on getting these folks matches, because we still do have seats for these folks. It's just kind of a complicated dance of our navigators have to reach out to the families have to review these matches, and then of course after that point, then they have to go through the weekly matching algorithm, and it's during the weekly matching algorithm that we more or less are kind of hoping that they get placed, and then if we don't, then we still have to work with the family on getting them placed.
All right, thank you so much for explaining that. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks for the question, Cheryl. Any other questions for Ryan at this point? All right, Drew has to stay, but Ryan doesn't have to. So enjoy your weekend, sir. Thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're gonna start to get into the slide deck that came from CDEC, I would imagine, and CDEC, I'm sure you know, is Colorado Department of Early Childhood. At this point, because you have been in this for a little bit, there's not much of this that should be a surprise to you, but we have committed to sharing all of this and answering any questions you have. So these are the topics that we're going to go over first. So we're going to start with matching and enrollment updates. And as Ryan just talked about, the algorithm is running weekly. It is running on Mondays, every Monday. And from Monday to Wednesday, matches go to you as a provider, and they're in placed status. The family cannot see the match. It's for you to review and reach out to the family to maybe have a preliminary discussion to see if you're going to be a good fit, etc. And then the matches go to families on Fridays, and then the family has from that Friday to the following Thursday to accept or decline the match. So we have, in any given week, we have families in place status, we have families in offered status, we have families in accepted status, and we have families in enrolled status. So we are all trying to track all of that and see if we can work with families and providers to get children into seats as quickly as possible. CDEC 3 weeks ago or so created a walk-in enrollment process, which was not something that was permitted before. This says that if you have a family that walks into your center or your home or calls you or has a conversation with you or comes in for a tour and they really want to be placed with you, then as long as you have an open seat, then you can call us and say, this family wants to be enrolled with me. And what we mean by open seat is that you have to have a seat that does not have a family in place status, offered status, or accepted status. So it truly has to be an open seat before we can actually place a family with you. But at least now we can do that. So that's the enrollment, walk-in enrollment process, and you're free to reach out to us if you have that situation that you would like to take advantage of this particular policy. So we're going to talk about programs and tuition, and I'm very sure by now you're aware of the fact that a part-time program is 10 hours per week, between 10 and 14 hours, that the half-day AM or PM program is 15 hours per week, and that a full day is 30 hours per week. And the point of the rest of this slide is to say that if you're offering a part-day program, and that's 10 hours a week, you cannot charge the family for any additional time. The UPK funding has to cover the UPK hours. If you are doing, well, actually, there's a couple of scenarios here that it probably makes more sense to just go through. So example one, child attends 15 hours per week. Child is awarded standard 15 hours per week of universal preschool. The provider cannot charge tuition for that family. However, if you have a child who is attending 20 hours a week, the child is awarded standard 15 hours. You can charge tuition for the 16th through the 20th hour, but it has to be based on your published provider rate. So you must publish your rate, and you cannot deviate from that for hours 16 through 20. Any questions on that?
Yeah, where do we publish the rate? I mean,
you have been given the opportunity to publish the rates on your profile, and in fact,
okay.
there is an expectation that you would do that.
Maybe I did. I don't realize I did.
Yeah,
I gotta go check that.
Regardless, that is where it should be published. But regardless of that, if when a family comes in and talks to you, you should be making sure that they understand that this is your published rates for all kids, and so this is what you're charging beyond the 15 hours that they're eligible for.
All right.
Okay.
I have a question too.
Sure.
So rumors went around again, and they say that next year the 10-hour programs will go away. Is that true?
We have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. The planning is starting for that, and any rumors that are going around are probably just that, rumors. The planning on the state level is happening at a very high level right now, and some of this will start to get pushed down to us as LCOs as the planning continues. But Sandra, that's the first time I've heard that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, rumors always goes around, but that one was scaring me a little bit. Where I'm like, that's all I'm offering.
Right.
So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, now we're going to talk about provider payments for 4-year-olds. As you already know, you're being paid on a monthly basis on the number of 4-year-olds in enrolled status on the 15th of the prior month. Up until this month, this is the last month for half-month rates. So if you are confused about any of that, there is a schedule that is up on our website, the UPK website at JI, and that outlines everything with regard to the payment schedule. Previously to this month, both accepted and enrolled were paid, and now only enrolled is paid. So make sure when you get a new kiddo that you get them enrolled as quickly as possible. Funding eligibility, we more or less just talked about, but I wanted to remind you that there was a lot of confusion around children being eligible for 30 hours. Every 4-year-old is eligible for 15 hours, and only a 4-year-old with who is living in a lower income household and has one of the other qualifying factors, which is experiencing homelessness, being a foster child, being a dual language learner, essentially not proficient in English, and has an IEP. Those are the only things that will qualify a family for 30 hours of UPK, and that's only if they are actually enrolled in a full day program. So if they're enrolled in a part-day program and they qualify for 30 hours, they're not obviously not getting 30 hours, they're getting 10. So questions on that? Okay. We're going to quickly go through 3-year-olds because this mostly pertains to school districts, but when UPK was originally stood up, it was meant for the year before kindergarten. And because the Colorado preschool program, the predecessor to UPK, also served children who were 3 years old, it was included in the legislation to include 3-year-olds through UPK, but only if they had one of the qualifying factors, which low income is one of them also, they enrolled with their home school district. So there is no option through UPK to serve a 3-year-old who is not being served by their home school district. I don't know if or how that will change next year, but that is what's happening for this year. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the quality standards development process. I want to first point out that there are no quality standards that are being implemented for this particular year, except the requirement that you keep your license in good standing. And there is a group that is working on proposed quality standards. There are some that have already proposed standards that have already been published. So in the spring, there was a stakeholder survey and analysis. Then there were recommendations and stakeholder engagement on the standards. And that's the process we're in right now. So there is an opportunity for you to provide feedback on the proposed quality standards. There's links that are included in this to show you how to do that. In the winter and spring, there will be more specific engagement to develop what they're calling a resource bank. And this will be an opportunity for UPK providers to be able to determine out of what is in that resource bank, the curriculum that you use, et cetera. Now, all of this is going to happen over time. So I do believe for next year that there will be an expectation of a research-based curriculum that a UPK provider will use. But beyond that, things will be implemented over time with support from the LCO. So we're just beginning this process, so I can't answer a lot of your questions here, but this is the timeline, and the first part of this will be implemented next year, and you will have the opportunity between the end of this school year and the beginning of next year to determine whether or not this is something that you want to embrace as a UPK provider, or whether you would like to continue on your own without UPK involvement, which is completely up to you. There are 3 areas of the quality standards that are being discussed. One, of course, is instructional practice. The second is healthy development of children. And the third is family and community engagement. And this shouldn't be any surprise to any of you. And I believe that the first section of this that will be implemented in the coming fall of 2024 will be around instructional practice, that will be the first priority. So we have links to several documents here, things that have been released, the quality standards crosswalk, the preliminary stakeholder input report, the draft universal preschool quality standards, and some frequently asked questions. Those links are all up on our UPK page, which Drew has put in the chat for you. And by the way, these slides are also on the UPK page for you. So you can take a look at those if you are interested. And then this down here shows you the link of how to provide feedback on the draft rules if you are interested in that. Okay. CDEC wanted you to know that there are some new resources out there. Provider capacity building grants are due 10/31, the end of this month, and that these are open to any universal preschool provider who is active, signed the agreement, and has matches. And you would have been sent a link directly from Metrics IQ for you to be able to apply for that. And then there is also a provider bonus, and you were asked to complete an attestation in September. And I think you can still do that. And this is for universal preschool providers who have never done Colorado preschool program, are active, signed the agreement, and had matches by August 31, 23. It was originally going to be a payment in 2 parts, with the first part coming this month. That was delayed, and now it will be a one-time payment in December. We do have a list of the links for the provider bonus. If you did not get yours and you believe that you are eligible, you can reach out to me and ask for that link. And then if you are have more questions about the capacity building grants, we can send you to Metrics IQ for their help desk that specifically is addressing those questions. Questions on the funding opportunities? Okay. More resources for you, and again, the links are live on our UPK page if you would like any of that. I hope you don't need Find My LCO because we're it, but maybe. All right, so before we go into CCAP and UPK and how they fit together, I'm going to stop here and ask if you have any questions about anything else we've gone over or something having to do with UPK that is not CCAP and UPK related.
I do, sorry.
Okay. No.
Did you guys talked about it, because that's a lot of complaints about providers if we would get paid on the 1st and not on the 8th? Is there any discussion about that?
Not that I'm aware of. All payment issues go to Metrics IQ, and I am fairly sure at this point that they're not going to change that.
That's not good.
Well, there are ways into the system at this point, and generally when we ask those kinds of questions, the answer is, yeah, we can look at that for next year. So,
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Wish I could help you there, but we have no control over that. All right. Any other questions about anything else? Okay. I'm going to introduce to you Jasenia Torres. She also has some co-workers that are on this too. Jasenia is with the El Paso County Department of Human Services, and I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we're going to talk about how CCAP and UPK fits together.
Thanks, Noreen. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jasenia Torres. As Noreen mentioned, I am a program manager with El Paso County Department of Human Services, specifically with oversight for the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program. Laura Cardenas is a supervisor with the Child Care Assistance Program as well, and she's joined us this evening for any questions you all may have, specifically related to CCAP. It's funded with various funding sources, but as Noreen mentioned, we'll get into the distinctions between UPK and CCAP and how those two work together. Additionally, I do not represent the contract side of things. So if you have any fiscal agreement questions or anything related to finances, I'm happy to take those questions back to the team members who do process that and then follow up with the answers to Noreen so that she can follow up with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasenia. So there is a chart that, again, is on the UPK page at JI. This is kind of hard to see, and I get that, which is why we wanted to make sure that you knew that the chart was on that page if you wanted to pull that up. But basically what we're going to do is talk about how UPK and CCAP fits together. So Jasenia, should a child, a family who is enrolled in CCAP, should they also enroll in UPK?
Yes, if they meet the qualifications to qualify for UPK, they really should, especially if, for example, if you're a provider and you have a family that's not sure if they're interested in UPK because they feel like they already have CCAP, it would be beneficial for that family, because if for some reason their CCAP had a disruption, they would be afforded continuity of care by having their UPK in place, and vice versa. If their UPK were to be disrupted, but they were eligible for and got onto the CCAP program, they would continue on with care with you because the CCAP was still in place.
Talk a little bit about well, for UPK, it's every 4-year-old by October 1st, with exceptions for school cutoff dates. What is in general the eligibility for CCAP?
In general, eligibility for CCAP is we are a means tested program, so we do look at income. We do look at activity. So those are the two main factors that we're looking at when it comes to the CCAP program. So when families are interested in applying, there is a website they can go to data enter their information, just preliminarily, to get a decision as to whether or not they may or may not qualify, and really be informed before they submit an application. We do have income guidelines. Those are listed on our county's website, which I can share that link here when I'm done speaking, for families to take a look at. But we would encourage them, if they're not sure if they qualify or not, to either use the website, it's called peak.com, PEAK.com, or just submit an application and we can assist them in the process.
Okay. So, from a provider perspective, does it make sense to have kids that are enrolled in CCAP and not have them enrolled in UPK?
Good question. In my opinion, it would not make sense. It makes better sense to have them in dually enroll. Presently, with the UPK coming on board, our families that are eligible for CCAP are generally approved and enrolled in the CCAP program for 12 months at a time. There are, some cases where they may not have a 12-month certification period. For example, we align their certification with Head Start. However, if the family's approved, they will have 12 months of certification. And with UPK at present, we are not making any edits to family copays or type of care they receive based on UPK, simply because it's just not ready right now. And so if I were a provider, I would have my families duly enroll because I potentially qualify for both UPK payment and CCAP payment.
And would that change the cost to families?
That would not. The only time their family would see an edit to their already approved CCAP program would be if it was a benefit to the family. So if we could reduce their payment based on them enrolling in UPK, which that has been the case for some families, we will definitely up their case. But if by enrolling in UPK would result in a higher payment for them, we would not add that UPK just yet. We would wait until their recertification program.
Okay. So universal preschool is based on enrollment in terms of payment. It's not based on attendance, but CCAP is different. You want to talk about that?
Yes. So when it comes to CCAP, as I mentioned, we do generally enroll families and approve them for a 12-month certification period. If, for example, the family tells us that they only need part-time care, we will authorize them for part-time care and pay the part-time care. If they're having UPK, they will forge on ahead with UPK and still be covered under the part-time care. If they want full-time care, then we will, again, cover full-time care for them, even if they have UPK and they're enrolled.
Okay, so it's driven by what the family says that they need, right?
Correct.
And also then it's based on attendance. CCAP is based on attendance rather than enrollment, which is what UPK payment is based on.
Correct.
Okay. So here's the application and recertification process. If you're interested in that, again, this is up on the page. I think you talked about going to Peak, Colorado.
Yes.
And so want to elaborate on that just a little bit more?
Yes, so we have the state has provided a website for all Coloradans to utilize that allows them to use what's called like a calculator for them to enter their information and see if they potentially qualify for any of the public assistance programs, not just child care subsidy. But in addition to that, they can also apply right there. They don't have to do a pre-eligibility. They can just simply apply right through that website as well. And so that's how you can use that program. And I can drop the website link for that application as well.
Thank you. Does anybody have any, Cheryl, Sandra, do you have any questions on how UPK and CCAP works together right now?
I do.
Okay.
I'm going to turn on my camera so you guys can see me. I'm done eating. So, but yeah, so I just want to ask, because I know that you said that right now CCAP is not going to be changing how the payments are going to be. They're going to stay the same. Do you happen to know or foresee how that may change? Because I know that there was some talk about, the first 3 hours was going to be UPK and CCAP wasn't going to pay for the rest. And there's 5 hours and 1 minute and then 8 hours and 1 minute. There was a lot of things being said about how the CCAP was going to not necessarily stack with UPK. That it would just be meshed with UPK. Are you saying that now it's going to be stacked where we still will get paid for the days that they're attending?
So from the CCAP perspective, if you have a family registered at your place and they're going, if they've requested full-time care, we're going to pay out full-time care. If, as I understand at present, if that family is also qualified for UPK and they're eligible for UPK, you will also be paid UPK as well. There are talks for the future to update that eventually. Exactly what the details of that is, I don't know yet, and I couldn't speak to that. But as of this moment in time, if you've got 4 kiddos enrolled in UPK and all 4 are enrolled in CCAP, if they have part-time or full-time care, that's what we're going to pay for their attendance based on them attending. And then whatever your UPK rate is for those children, you'll also get paid that as well. Okay. I just wanted to, because there was just a lot of talk. It was very mixed, and I was reading the stuff on JI, and I just wanted to really get clarity of how that's going to work. And with a family, you said that is it still the family will receive like a discount if they're placed in a rated program? Is that still families eligible for that? Yes, that's still available to families if they opt into a higher quality rated center provider, at-home provider, then their rate is reduced as far as what their pay is. And then just to mention, Cheryl, disclaimer, things could change tomorrow. The state might figure out how to, work everything in and decide to just change things tomorrow. So as of this moment in time, this is how we're currently operating, but there is potential that something could be updated in a week from now, a month, or even a year. Okay, so I just want to be able to use that same verbiage with families, because as I'm already have 5 UPK, 1 is CCAP, but I also have Head Start too. So it's kind of like, I'm going to have 5 openings. So as I'm already doing interviews with families that are going to be placed with me this summer before the next school year starts, I just want to make sure and give them that same verbiage. If they're CCAP, that's kind of a perk because I'm a rated program. Their, copay could go down and stuff like that. So
Cheryl, I think the one thing that I have learned over the last couple of weeks as I have been pressing the state to, drop us some hints as to what it is they're thinking about for next year. There's virtually no hints coming. And yet, and there is no commitment yet on, we're going to do this, we're not going to do this. What I do know is that they're entirely revamping the whole application system, and they don't expect that the application system is going to be ready for prime time until March for families. And we are trying to get a timeline for providers as to when it is they need to do their first round of commitment with the programs that they're going to offer, how many slots, et cetera, et cetera. Don't have it yet. And so we'll get it out to you as soon as we know what the proposed timeline is for that. And I agree with Jasenia. While I doubt anything with CCAP or UPK will change for this particular school year, it may very well change for the next school year. And so something different may happen there. And I would hope that there is plenty of warning on that, so that as you are planning what programs you're going to offer and et cetera, that you have warning to develop your business model and make sure that you feel comfortable with what it is you're doing. So, and we'll get the information out to you as soon as we hear anything about it. But I really encourage you not to be driven by rumors, because it's a lot of people putting a lot of energy into things that may or may not come to fruition. And so it's probably better at this point to make sure that you're providing your feedback in terms of what it is you want to see. But don't go chasing rumors, because that it's more often than not, they're not correct.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. What other questions do you have about anything at this point?
Oh boy. So many, and it's always the same, you know. The main thing what bugs me of the whole UPK thingy, but you want to hear only the CCAP things now, or everything?
No, whatever you'd like.
Well, what the main thing is for every in-home provider, that we don't have the last say so who we can have in our preschool and who don't.
Yep.
And it scares me, and I'm trying to, being honest, I'm trying to get that system so that it works for me, because I put already advertisement out, you know, for the new school year, so that I can meet those families already who are interested in Little Kiga, and then explain to them what they have to do to get pushed up.
Right. Right. And so right now, that's the best possible approach, is to just keep up to date with when those applications open, and make absolutely sure that you have a written document as to what it is that you can give to a family, email them, hand it to them, or whatever, that says, this is how you increase the chances that you will be matched with me in the first round. And you want them in as quickly as you can get them in. So Cheryl, that was something that I was going to say to you, is be really careful about who you commit to, because you may not get them. So just be careful. And that's the whole point of equitable access. It is meant to give every family the same opportunity to enroll with high quality providers. Sandra, I do believe that the state has heard the concern about family child care providers. And I do think, you know, controlling who's in their home, et cetera, I do think there's going to be more allowance for that next year, but I don't know what that's going to look like. But I'm pretty sure it's not going to be wholesale declining, where you don't like the look of somebody, so you just decline them. That you would have to have a reason that was acceptable to CDEC, and within the philosophy of equitable access to decline a family. But I think that they are going to take that into consideration. I absolutely could be wrong, but you know, you guys as a group have been great advocates for the family child care model, and we would really love more family child care homes to come in to the system. We don't have enough seats. You saw that. We don't have enough seats in the right place. You saw that. So the more people who come, the more family childcare homes who come into the system and sign up as a CCAP provider, et cetera, the better. And so they don't want to discourage that, but the system this year was not built for you. It wasn't. It was built for centers and school districts.
Yeah.
So, and nobody's going to come out and say that. And maybe I shouldn't have said that since this is being recorded, but, there were just specific needs of family childcare homes that, were not voiced as loudly as they could have been when this was developed. So.
And another question I have too about the curriculum again.
Okay,
So,
hang on just a second, Sandra.
Okay.
Either Cheryl or Sandra, do you have any more questions for Jasenia and her team? Because if you have no CCAP questions, we're going to let them get on with their Friday night.
I don't, because I don't do CCAP.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any more. That
Okay.
was my main question. I'm good.
Okay, Jasenia, thank you. Your team, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're all yours.
Oh,
Curriculum.
nice.
Curriculum.
Yeah, with the curriculum. So my curriculum for my preschool, I mean, they do get the alphabets, they get everything what a child needs to enter kindergarten. And I learned from Head Start. As you know, I worked for Head Start before.
Mm-hmm.
But my philosophy is listen to the children. So I listen to them what they like to do for a curriculum. I do not like, because I purchased some of those Mother Goose curriculums, and honestly, I can do nothing with those, because I'm like, okay, the apple, and the kids like, Miss Sandra, the apple? Yeah, but Miss Sandra, what's the fire truck doing? So I'm switching my whole thing and just listen to my kids. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing curriculum. This is not for me. So how bad will I be in trouble if I don't have a curriculum and follow the kids' lead?
Well, I think every early childhood curriculum should follow the kids' lead. Okay.
Mhm.
And every curriculum allows for that in terms of implementation. So if I were you, I would not worry about it right now, because they're not going to legislate I don't believe they're going to legislate specific curriculums. Okay. But I think they will ask you to meet certain standards in terms of your instructional practice. And so if you can demonstrate that you're meeting those standards, then you're probably in good shape.
Yeah.
But, if you stick kids in front of a television set all day, that's not going to happen. So, I mean, that's you get it. So I wouldn't worry about that right now. I truly do believe that that's the least of the worries. Because I think you're going to have a lot of flexibility, but the expectation is that there's going to be, that there's going to be high quality instruction, and it's play-based. It's always play-based, right? And it's child-driven within the parameters of what they need to learn. So I don't think you'll have any problem. And again, I wouldn't get stuck on that.
Yeah, because I
Can I
spend
say
it a
something?
lot. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl.
That's okay. I think that Sandra, you are doing some high quality instruction by going by the child's lead. I think curriculum is our guide. It's like your guide. It's going to give you a guide, but I don't know how many times I've looked at my lesson plan and it's like I have to just throw it out and it's out the door because we're doing something totally different. But the plan was to do that, and you're kind of focused on that, and then you kind of you learn your children, and then you develop your curriculum. Although I have a curriculum that I use, but there's so many other things I add to that, and the kids totally change it, and we go by what they're doing. I can tell them I'm using this curriculum, and I can show it in my assessment that we're completing those. And just like what Noreen said, as long as you're meeting those needs, you're doing it. I went through a rating and you had to use certain ones. I use that certain one and I can say it was there, but I don't know. There's so many times it's just so emergent. You have to do that with preschool age and toddlers and stuff. It's got to be emergent. It's got to go with their lead. So I think you'll be fine, just what Noreen said.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, I don't think you're going to have an issue. I think the biggest thing that I would like to see with family childcare homes, not only the ones that were in this time around, and I got used to it, Head Start calling you family childcare teachers, not homes or providers. And so it's hard for me because UPK uses family childcare providers or homes, but you're teachers. And so I think that the biggest concern that I have is how you're marketing yourselves in UPK. And so I want to spend some time with family childcare teachers who are interested, or even this year, really showing some great examples of how people completed their profiles and what they put up there and what they put in there, et cetera, to give some people some food for thought. Because I think a lot of, unfortunately, there still is a myth out there that any kind of early care and education in a home is not high quality. And what we need to do at this point is change that. And part of that is based on, the narrative that you're putting in there about the curriculum you're using, whether or not you're using child assessments to be able to individualize for each child. The kinds of things that you'll get with the teacher, with the center, that you'll get with the school district. Family childcare teachers need to be marketing themselves in the same way. And that way, families, I'm hoping that first of all, we'll bring more in. And second of all, that it will change a family's perspective on whether or not that's a possible placement and match for a family in UPK. Does that make sense?
Go ahead.
I did want to, I would be remiss if I didn't put in a quick plug here that when it comes to curriculum and coaching as well, and I'm sure you both know it, is that we do offer, particularly with our new coaches now, on the early childhood side through foundations, that curriculum and that training is there if you guys need help with it. So just give me a call and I'll connect you.
I'm pretty established because I don't do daycare. I only do preschool, and I've been doing it for quite a while. And but for some reason, something changed with UPK, because when I put it out that, I'm starting enrollment for UPK families, if you're interested, Usually when I put my program out, my phone is not holding still. But this year, two people only contacted me, and it's like, what is going on? Why is that? What's going on? Do you know?
Well, part of it at this point is the fact that before there was no option for any family to get it, unless they went to a Head Start program, to get free care, right? Of any kind, for any amount of time. If they needed childcare, they either were in CCAP with a parent copay or they were tuition based. Period. End of sentence. And now with UPK, it's all of a sudden, man, I get 15 hours and I can choose, 5 providers that I'd really like to be considered at and see which one I get matched to, right? And it puts the families in the driver's seat, which they always have been, but more so this way. And they've already got, they've got 15 hours to do with what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's lots of options out there. So, I just think you have to compete, and you have to compete by marketing yourselves differently than I think you have been within the UPK system. And I also think that you need to market yourself as a UPK provider, because that is a big deal for families that want a high quality program, but can't afford to pay for it. So UPK pays for it instead. So
even though I have to say, out here in the country, people are a little bit against UPK. How can I explain that? Country people are these, no, we're not gonna let this fund us and taxes get taken away. You know
Right.
how country
Right.
people always are. And I'm in the middle of the country, so most of my families are country. So they even say, so are you still able to do how you want to do this? Because we like your teaching way. And I'm like, so far we good, but
Well,
this is only the first year. But
exactly, but you get to answer them. I mean, a lot of it depends upon how you answer them, Sandra. If you tell them that, this is still my program, and we do high quality early care and education, and I'd like to provide you a little bit of feedback on something that I think will also help. And we have 4 minutes, and then we're going to call it a night. Preschool and quote unquote daycare should all be high quality early care and education. They should not be seen as two separate things. And the more we as an industry see ourselves as professionals, no matter how long we are caring for kids, the better off we're all going to be. And so in my mind, the best possible thing that all of us could do is use the term early care and education. That's what you're providing, or something like that. And that includes whether you're there for 12 hours a day, whether you're there for 6 hours a day, or whether you're there for 3 hours a day. That time is well planned. It is play-based. It is child-driven, etc. Okay. And Cheryl, as an example, she's got kids all day, right? She's not a child care. She's an early care and education provider. And so that's one of the biggest fights we have with parents around whether or not they should consider a family childcare teacher, is they think they're just, that you keep them safe and that's it. Okay. Now, keeping them safe is important, but that's a misnomer. And if we don't get out there and start changing that, it's never going to change.
Yeah.
So we can talk about planning for next year for you, because depending who your demographic is, you may want to go with fewer UPK seats and more tuition-based seats for those families who are scared of the government, right? But the thing that I think is hilarious is they're the ones that, if they want to pay for it without, they're going to pay the taxes anyway. It's a sin tax. It's nicotine, it's, that kind of thing. Yeah. They're going to pay it anyway. And so the bottom line is, why wouldn't you take advantage of it if you have a 4-year-old? But, if you're scared to death and don't want your information in a UPK portal, then don't. And so if that's half of your audience, if you will, then you need fewer UPK seats. And then we increase them as people figure out that they just missed a great opportunity to get free early care and education. And then we increase them and we get them changed over to those seats. So
yeah, see, and it would be nice, even though it's kind of nice not having this many 3-year-olds this year, even though I have some, because I have some self-paid 3-year-olds.
Right.
But I do have to say it's easier with not the 3-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, too, I think if I could get UPK with 3-year-olds, I would get a little bit better for as well. I'd be honest, Noreen, I'm really, really scared of next year.
Well, I wouldn't be scared of it, because the bottom line is, as the rules are coming out and things are being developed, you have the right to say no, and you go back to doing business as you were before. You certainly have the right to do that, right? Nobody's forcing anybody into UPK except school districts.
But you cannot compete with free.
Right.
So if I would say, no, I'm not going to do UPK, then I will not be full. Some would be coming, yes, but not as many no more, because you cannot compete with free.
Well, you can compete with free if there's lots of other reasons that other than free that people choose an early care and education provider. But we can talk further about this, and I would love to do that. And I'd love to help you develop, a model of how many kids you should be doing in what program, et cetera. We need a little bit more information first before we can do that, because right now we just be flying blind. But I think we should do that before, you need to commit one way or another as to whether or not you're going to play.
Well, I want to stay. So, and yes, I'd be open that you're going to look what I have and
Sure.
let me know. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
well, we can talk it through.
Okay.
All right, so I have promised Drew that we're going to be done at 6:30, and we're at 6:31. So I want to thank you both for being here this evening and for caring enough to be
Thank
here
you.
this evening. Does it work better? So for the coming months, probably Friday evening isn't the best evening, huh?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
And
there are a lot of people, it's a long week, so.
Yeah. Is
Yeah,
6
there's a
o'clock
lot
better?
of trainings on Tuesdays. There's stuff on Thursdays too, so,
Okay.
yeah.
So is 6 o'clock better than 5:30?
It's fine for me. I'm
I
home.
I close at 5:30, so it's fine, but I do know that there's programs that are open from 6 to 6.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we'll
Yeah.
look for you guys, maybe we'll look at 6 o'clock on a Monday or a Wednesday and in the
Mhm.
future and change that time up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. All
Sounds
right,
good.
well, I appreciate
Thank
both of you being
you.
here. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Seeing you
You
both.
too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.